Welcome to the Moody's Tire and Auto Football Extra.
Visit us at Moody's Tire for all your tire and automotive needs.
Stop by and see us at 1600 Columbia Avenue.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Moody's Tire and Auto Football Extra. My name's Charles Pulliam with the Williamson Herald, joined here by Maurice Patton, and guess what? It's playoff football time. Maurice, we got quite a few of the county teams, 8 of 10 roughly, getting in there. What are you seeing out of this first round of playoffs?
Well, 5 of the 8 that are in are playing this weekend. We've got 3 teams that have got byes, but it's an interesting week. It's always fun when the playoffs get going, and got some interesting matchups, one in particular.
Speaking of that one in particular, man, it's like deja vu. We just saw this last week. Franklin is going to host Centennial. We're here at Franklin. Boys practicing inside. We're getting all the bad weather out on Wednesday here instead of Friday. But what a game we got coming.
If last week is any indication, you're absolutely right. I mean, Centennial controlled that game for most of the game. It sounds like, I wasn't here, unfortunately, but controlled it. Franklin came back late and wrapped it up and won it 37-34 and secured this home field that they'll have Friday night for the rematch. So I think it's always tough when you see the rematches, and under this current playoff system, we've seen a lot of those, especially in the early rounds. And when you're coming back and playing somebody that you just played, I think the advantage maybe swings to Centennial because they just lost that game. Brian Rector gets a week to beat those guys over the head with the fact that they just lost to this Franklin team. And Donnie Webb has got to try to guard against complacency because they just beat these guys a week ago, even if it was by 3. So I think Centennial will come over here with something to prove Friday night, and it'll be up to Franklin to try to weather that and pick up another win in as many weeks.
Well, you kind of think matchups there too, and this is one that kind of seen happening here possibly in the playoffs, just not in the first round. Both teams very capable of really moving on, you think, and making some noise. So it's just with the playmakers out there, your Joe Critchlows, your Bryce Milums and Malik Grimes for Franklin, and then Tyrell Dotson and Deion Sanders, Emmanuel Hall for Centennial. Lots of playmakers out there, and it's just it's going to be tough to see one of them go here in the first week.
It really is. It's a shame that if this game had to happen, it had to happen right out of the box like this, and that one of these teams is going to go home because they've both had such great seasons, both of them coming in 8-2. Franklin lost to Ravenwood and McGavock earlier in the year. Centennial lost, obviously, to Franklin and to Ravenwood as well. But again, both had great seasons, and it's a shame that come Friday, one of those seasons is going to wrap up. But the good thing is one of those teams is going to go forward and possibly make some more noise, like you said.
Another game we'll be watching very closely is undefeated Ravenwood, 10-0 on the year. They're going to be hosting Station Camp in the first round game. Station Camp coming to town, not the same Station Camp team that knocked off Franklin last year in the first round, but another formidable foe.
Exactly. Not the same Station Camp team. Josh Malone is up in Knoxville making plays in orange and white. The quarterback from last year, though, Kyle Anderton, is back. He's committed to Vanderbilt to play tight end. Big kid, 6'4", 250, really impressive looking kid, especially at quarterback. Doesn't quite have the playmakers that he had to work with last year when Station Camp was having a really big year, and I think that's going to play to Ravenwood's advantage. For a team that has accomplished as much as they have over the last 2 years, 19-1 in the last 2 regular seasons. Those guys play with a chip on their shoulder. They really do. They play like they've got something to prove every week, and I think that's a testament both to the job that Will Hester has done as coach and that coaching staff, and to those kids. They have not rested on anything, I don't think, and I don't think you're going to see them take a 5-5 Station Camp team lightly this week. So I think they're ready to make some noise now that they're here in this spot. I think they're ready to put 10-0 behind them, and they're focused on 5-0, 1 week at a time. So I think this is going to be a fun one to watch from the Ravenwood side.
The Raptor defense has been something. They've allowed, 98 points through 10 games, and offensively putting it on as well. Some of those guys out there sure are fun to watch.
They really are. Obviously, Van Jefferson, the big-time receiver who is committed to Georgia, closing in on 1,000 receiving yards. Seth Rowland's done a great job in the running game for him and also plays defensive line. And they've got some weapons. Austin Percy is a receiver who would probably be the #1 receiver for a lot of teams. But when you've got a guy that's committed to an SEC school on the other side, it's kind of tough. But as #2s go, I'm sure Cole Brown loves having him over there. So they've got some guys that can make some plays. And again, I don't see Station Camp really given Ravenwood a lot of problems unless by some way Ravenwood doesn't come in ready to play. If they come in focused and ready to play, I think they move on to the next round.
Our other first-round 6A matchup is Independence traveling to Hendersonville. Familiar territory last year if you go back to the quarterfinals there where the Eagles fell 36-35, another tight loss there in the quarters at Hendersonville. And this Commandos team, they're something to mess with.
So I think they went 7-3 through the regular season last year. Next thing you know, you look up and they're in the championship game playing against Maryville, coming off of that 36-35 win over Independence. And they've been a team that has, kind of struggled through the regular season at times and then turned it on in the postseason. Last year was like their third championship game appearance in maybe 6 or 7 years, something like that. So they've quietly been a team that's built up that tradition, I guess, but they've not been a team that's really done it in the regular season per se. This year they went 9-1. Only loss was to Riverdale. They won their district up there, and they got a home game here right out of the gate. And Independence is a team that has shown an ability to score a lot of points, storm you early. Hanging on to it hasn't necessarily been their forte. So that will be, I'm sure, what Coach Scott Blade is talking to those guys about is once we get up, let's figure out how we can stay up. Obviously, Andrew Bunch is going to play a major role in this ball game. He's thrown the ball all over the place for him this year, upwards of 2,400 passing yards, getting Nate Johnson and Seth Huner involved in the passing game, and then Don Childress in the running game as well. But the biggest thing for Independence is going to be how do they go about stopping Hendersonville and all those running backs in that wing T offense that they've got.
And that's the 6A matchups here. We got Franklin hosting Centennial, Ravenwood hosting Station Camp, and Indy traveling all the way up to Hendersonville. Looking into Class 3A, we got Fairview traveling to Westmoreland. This is a matchup that we saw last year, only it was the other way around. Fairview able to get past Westmoreland, and this one's going to be a tough matchup for Fairview. Really physical game is what Coach Hughes expects.
And the thing about Fairview is, had some injuries early on, seem to have gotten themselves back together, made a run here in the second half of the season to get into the playoffs, and whether they can sustain that in a tough environment up at Westmoreland this week is going to be the key, obviously.
Yeah, you got to think this Fairview team, they were 2-3 in week 4 and able to win their last 5. Hunter Zimmerman coming on strong there, and also Hunter Caldwell on the ground. He's got nearly 1,000 yards rushing. Moving into Class 4A, well, that's Page, and they're traveling as well. They're going to near Chattanooga area there to play Hickson, and another tough matchup here for Page on the road, and they're just trying to get out of this first round. They've made the playoffs consistently here, just not able to advance.
I think their last win might have been when they went down to Lexington and beat an undefeated Lexington team a few years back. But like you said, been a consistent qualifier, just haven't been able to get past the first round. And I think Page coming into the playoffs the way they are right now, coming off of a tough loss to Spring Hill last week, where they, I don't know if another way to say it, they look sloppy. What did they have, 12 penalties?
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's something that Coach Rathbone will really want to get addressed this week going into this game, because going into the postseason playoff football, you can't make the kind of mistakes that they were making, and that's going to be a big key for them, especially on the road.
Yeah, it's this Page team, coming in a little banged up, and Hickson won their last 6, including 3 shutouts. So this is maybe a possibly formidable defense here. Michael Magochi going to have to get things going there for that Page offense. Lots of action to be watched here, as we'll all be there and watching plenty of sports as we come down here as well. We got to think about basketball season coming up, but football
don't
first.
Forget about wrestling season either.
Wrestling too, yes, wrestling too. As lots to be paid attention to. First round of the playoffs Friday, and we'd like to thank you for watching the Moody's Tire and Auto Football Extra. For Maurice, Patton, I'm Charles Pulliam. It's been a pleasure, and be sure to follow us at WH Sports on Twitter, and check out Williamson Herald for all the updates and videos and photos and stories that we can come up with. Thanks for watching.